All right, here we go.
Weeks between meaningful Starfield updates because Bethesda are trying to respond to the whole situation with hotfixes and a plan, including some pretty damn much requested features. Another thing improving behind the scenes apparently is ZeniMax Workers United, who are trying to get things going good there. Elsewhere, we've got a viral rumor to deal with about Fantastic. Of course, the ex-developers of the day before, because they, supposedly are closed. And also, the indie devs at New Blood Interactive are kind of showing everybody how it's done when it comes to looking at team. And you can look after our team with today's sponsor. All right, let's save some money, access more content.
Let's save some money.
NordVPN.
I'm not sponsored by them, so we're going to move past that. If you want to support his team,
go
ahead.
Starfield then. Obviously, it's a game that had a lukewarm reception, and I think that reception has actually got cooler as time has went on. Most recently on YouTube, you've probably seen it yourself. There's a Nakey Jake video. He makes hilarious stuff, also thought out. He did a video on how outdated design of Starfield is. And, of course, it's a video that couldn't explode like it did if it wasn't tapping into a humongous, I suppose, wellspring of public opinion, which it actually has. Now, when we look at the game, you've got two resolutions of problem. On the biggest resolution, fundamentals of the game do not really deliver the fantasy, right? The fantasy that kind of ideally deliver in a way that people expect. As an example, you're playing Skyrim, you roam about the place, you have adventures, that's all good. On Starfield, you basically teleport between little hubs and little, sections of places. And yeah, it's kind of that space adventure fantasy, but there's so many roadblocks here, there, and everywhere that it doesn't really feel like it gives players that continuous immersion of just being, out in the plains, out in the wilds. That's that. Next resolution is when you zoom in and you basically find that the devil is in the details and there are loads of problems absolutely here. Because while this is one of the less buggy, maybe the least buggy launches that Bethesda have had, it obviously still is a Bethesda game, so yeah, it's got tons of bugs. Now, how do we fix these two problems? Problem number one basically means they need to re-engineer the game. That is traditionally, quite simply, not the sort of thing that Bethesda do.
I want to know why they have to completely change the fundamentals of the game. Like, I don't understand this just take Starfield out of it, right? If you don't like a game, name any other game in your head, okay? If you don't like that game, do they have to fundamentally change the game for you to like it? Or do they stand true to what their vision was for the game, and then you either like it or you don't like it? Like, you play it or you don't play it, right? I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, they only re-engineer stuff when they absolutely need it in order to create new content. I think it's pretty clear that putting a large engineering effort into the sorts of things that are just kind of like day-to-day, second-to-second game quality of life, those are kind of lost in the journey for just going big. Right, so we got that. Those smaller problems, though, well, that's plenty of small updates. Now, sometimes this can be a bit weird. People will have their own problems that they've, reported, and then they see even the recent, say, hotfixes, where, well, crashing bug on the Xbox and Microsoft Store, a fix for weapon cases, and a fix for a bug that attached asteroids to ships. In the eyes of the community, this was not...
The asteroid ship thing Sarge got. He got that, and he had like a pet rock with him for weeks.
Not a lot of fixes, and materially it certainly wasn't either. So we've got a pace that feels slow when it comes to fixing problems. Then people look at Baldur's Gate 3, which is on its 5th now, but I think more importantly, you maybe think 5, massive amount, but the point is, there have been thousands and thousands of bug fixes.
Yeah, they fixed thousands of bug fixes on that.
In these patches, which, again, if you're Bethesda, does look rough. So what they did to deal with all of this is go to Reddit, which is a good sign because it shows going to an external community, one that they know obviously is having quite a lot of fun at their expense. Now, they start off by saying this whole pet asteroid update is, it's not like meant to be a big update, they just wanted to fix it before the Christmas break, and they do have another patch that is coming out. They basically go through some details as well as what we can expect. And overall, fairly decent, but I do just wonder so here's what's coming. So FSR and XESS, which will be going alongside the existing DLSS update, so that's reasonable. Quest bug solutions, including a newly built system to mean no save rollback from visitors. New features. City map.
Yeah, the city map was funny to me. I said it when it first came out. I was like, why isn't there a city map? Right? Why are there not city maps? Like, at least make it where, okay, I don't have the map, and then as I walk around the city, it unlocks or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I found it. Now I know where it is.
City goddamn maps. Now, if you've played this game as I have, yeah, it inexplicably shipped without city map.
Just like a first-person shooter didn't ship with the scoreboard. When another game didn't ship with the actual co-op. or split screen. All of these games do this fucking shit, right? I hate when something fundamentally should be in the game at launch and they don't, and then they put it in, they're like, hey, we're listening, we're putting city maps in. It's like, bravo.
Which is insane. So there's that. There's also mod support, which is going fairly. This is the kind of thing where, honestly...
But let's be honest. That's a quality of life thing. Putting city maps in is not going to bring me back to the game to be like, bro, they put city maps in. I'm jumping in for another 1,000 hours now.
I think modders may to kind of save this game. I'm not exact, but basically there's so many planets, there's technically so much canvas in this game. It's just what's on that canvas is particularly weak, even though the canvas itself is still all sort of Bethesda game canvas, the sort of thing that can be mod joy, and also new travel options. Now those new travel options are the more in me, and there's a few different ways where because taking a player from here to over there, regardless of the difference in between, basically you can do that very easily. It's just a matter of like how much fast travel do you want to skip. So it'll be interesting to see because if you wanted to go from one place on one to where your quest is,
I think the problem with the fast travel in this game is because there's load screens, because you can get around pretty fast by fast traveling, especially once you've been somewhere, right? Like if I go from my ship to the underground science lab or whatever, number 16, when I get out of that ship, I can literally teleport to my ship, right? I don't have to walk back. Once I've been somewhere, I can also go back to that location as well, right? So it's weird because you can get there, but I think a lot of people will complain that it's fast travel, then you have to go to load screen. And if I fast travel again, it's another load screen, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and they're freaking out.
Currently, there are like different ways of doing it, but for a lot of people, you know, they leave in their ship and they go over there, loading screen, or just one loading screen, taking you straight to your destination. That would be a pretty hardcore.
Hell, you don't even have to put it on your hard drive. You don't even have to put it on your hard drive. I tried it the other day just to load it up to see what it would be. I played it through the Xbox app through the cloud on my MetaQuest 2 headset. I was pretty impressed by it.
Response, but it would quite remove the pain. However, in removing the pain point, it would also remove so much scale of the universe. I suppose if you had to pull that...
Bethesda's motto, why make a complete game when modders will do it for us? Aren't modders just really passionate people that love what Bethesda does? Wasn't there an article that we read on here that modders are excited and they don't want Starfield to come out polished because they want to fix it?
Scale off via infinite loading screens in a way where the player just feels that their gameplay is always disrupted. They basically, I mean, they made, I think, core when it came...
Let me rewind that again. I want to hear that again.
In a way where the player just feels that their gameplay is always disrupted. They basically, I mean, they made... I think core when it came to this game. I think there was just some things where they decided, you know what, fantasy more than the ambition. We're going to focus on the scale, we're going to focus on the fantasy, but evidently the playability issues, which mean that people essentially don't...
Yeah, there was an article about that. There was an article about the modders wanted the game to come out so they could fix it. Because they feel like they're passionate. The modders of any game are the most passionate people of the franchise or whatever franchise it is, right? They're so excited about that game that they're like, oh man, I get to fix it. I get to make better graphics for it. I get to be, you know, they're the biggest fan. But yet we're talking about it as Bethesda's motto is we'll let the modders fix it. The modders want to do it.
Don't get away as in the game. And the thing about a lot of this, they do not operate on writing and characters. You want Obsidian. Bethesda operates on vibes. And I think the core problem they've had is those vibes are basically just being disrupted by all of the vast playability issues or even just some bizarre things where like the whole settlement outpost thing just kind of feels bolted on. You don't really need to engage with it.
I said this when the game came out. If you want to engage with the customization of your outposts, you can. If you don't, you don't. But it's there for people that want to engage with it, right? We actually looked at the achievement list. What was it? It was less than, I think it was less than 14% of people made an outpost, right? Like it's not a mandatory thing. It's something else to add on if you want it. It's like 1,000 planets, right? No Man's Sky does the exact same thing, only they do it a trillion times more, quintillion times more. Like there's a quintillion planets in No Man's Sky. You don't have to go to all quintillion planets. You only go to the planets that you want to go through on your playthrough and whatever you're doing. So it's just another thing to do in the game. This is not a mandatory thing. The shipbuilding is not a mandatory thing. They give you ships. You can use those ships, right? You don't have to build an outpost, but if you want to build an outpost, you can build an outpost.
The way the ammunition system, is the weirdness of the crafting system. It's just one of those games that doesn't necessarily feel all that well thought out as an overall experience. And certainly then when it comes to the authored content, they are honestly real weak. As an example, I've seen loads of people, loads of publications as well, say that, basically there's a side quest on this dice world, and colony ship arrives. Now, this colony ship, go on for hundreds of years.
I would believe that up until Fallout 4, but that has totally screwed the modders by stealing their creations and then selling them in the cash shop. But you're also missing a big portion there, Farmer. Lots of modders make money off Skyrim and Fallout now, right? So lots of modders are actually making a living, just like the modders make off of Minecraft when they build stuff for Minecraft, and now people that do it for Epic with Fortnite, people that create the things are getting paid for their creation.
Generations on it, and it's a really strong premise, but almost like the worst of some Star Trek, it's a strong premise that is just mangled and boring in execution. So if that is some of the better content they've got, I do kind of worry. Because I did that, I did a few other side missions, did some main mission stuff, and the whole world just kind of felt so goddamn bland that I didn't care. But the weird thing about it is, you see when you walk around an outpost, you take a look at what's written in the whiteboards, you look at the chunks, there's a lot of character in the game. It's just a great example of didn't pull together, I think.
Now they do? Yeah, but your statement was like they're like slave workers. I mean, things change, right? Here's the thing. If someone makes fun of somebody, we have to stop having people being offended for those people. The modders, if you're a modder, then by all means, get frustrated that you weren't getting paid for your creations, and now you are, right? But we got to stop going, man, I'm really offended that these modders didn't get paid and they got stolen, right? It doesn't concern you in any way, shape, or form. In this age, 30-second shorts a game is a learning curve, and a lot of folks, every game can't be weekend experience because of drastically changing the vision. If every big game can't be Baldur's Gate because every studio isn't Lorien Studios. Yeah, it's good. That's a good point, Digit.
Yeah, a compelling world. And as much as I think I started talking about this with a degree of hope, I actually think Starfield is screwed. Yeah, no, I sort of feel it's screwed in that way that Fallout 4 is a bit screwed. Now, Fallout 4 did get more content, but it was the...
I don't understand how Fallout 4 was screwed. It made millions and millions of dollars. They made their money from that game. That game is not a live service game. They made a game. They sold the game. People are still playing it. It sold... Let me look real fast on how many copies Fallout 4 sold. Oh yeah, huge. It's so screwed. It's so screwed. Fallout 4, right? Let me rewind. Let me rewind.
The Fallout's absolutely screwed. Now, screwed. Yeah, no, I sort of feel it's screwed in that way that Fallout 4 is a bit screwed. Now, Fallout 4 did get more content, but it was the weaker of the Fallouts, absolutely. Yeah, no, I actually think this game is so mid, it's probably not worth bothering about. And in fact, that is what one of the very well-known modders of Skyrim said. I think fundamentally, right, there's this phrase, I think it's one that we can all do a thinking about. It's the idea that it's not necessarily how...
So screwed. Fallout 4, the single-player game, right? The single-player game, right? If Starfield has the same fate as Fallout 4 that sold. Now, obviously, Starfield's not going to sell that because Starfield is on Game Pass. And the industry has completely changed from when Fallout 4 came out to what Starfield came out. Starfield you can buy, sure, but it's on Game Pass, and that's what Microsoft is pushing. So to say that the same fate is going to happen, if the same fate happened and Starfield sold 25 million copies, boy, that would sure be a shame, wouldn't it, for them? What are we talking about?
Hard euro, but it's what boat, which is basically just saying that yes, there is a realm of your physical control in the situation that you're in right now. Some's the situation that you're in that is kind of going to dictate your results, not how hard you work. Sometimes to do is step back, pick, and if we're going in the right way, if we are in the right boat. And I suppose as I think about Starfield, it's the wrong boat. I don't actually think this can be fixed up that much. Personally,
I watch his content all the time, right? I watch his content all the time. I really do. This is a terrible take. This is a terrible take, especially in 2023, where games like Destiny, Division, No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk, Battlefield, Halo, what's another one, right? I don't understand, right? I don't understand. He says it can't come back. I gotta hear that again.
In the right boat. And I suppose as I think about Starfield, it's the wrong boat. I don't actually think this can be fixed up that much.
He's smiling when he's saying it. He can't believe this.
Personally, I don't know. Maybe they can pull it off, but to be honest with you, this game is all of Bethesda's weaknesses and essentially none of their strength. I am still utterly...
Bethesda made Fallout 76, and that shit is still up and running and has millions of players. I don't believe he believes this. There's no way. There's no way.
How they can roll out the same very tired game design. I've got to be real with you. Like, to me, Skyrim was tired in 2011, and I felt that because I played Oblivion. You know, I think Oblivion's better.
Skyrim was tired. Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's fair. But what's also fair is you have to say what it is. Yeah, it was so old back in 2011. So much so that they went on to make it 4 different times, and it sold and has 60 million copies. So old, so over it. No clientele for it. Just so dull. Like, this is the worst take he's ever had. And I love his content. I love the news that he brings.
Better game than Skyrim, to be honest. It's as if they haven't really updated that much since 2006. And yes, they've done things like, you can build an outpost. That's a neat thing to do.
I can agree with him saying they didn't change anything, right? But look at some other games that have been out for a decade. Is it groundbreaking game? Like, they changed the game in 10 years? No. You know why? Did Grand Theft Auto 5 change drastically in the last 10 years for online? No, they just kept giving you shark cards and putting more cosmetics and more things. I just don't get it. I don't know, Z. It sounds... Like, when he was saying it, he was smiling. I honestly don't believe he believes this.
But it's not the, like, essential fantasy, the essential game. Basic. Haven't got that there.
Inner Void says, hot take, Fallout 76 is better than Starfield. All right, Void, I'll credit you there. Fallout 76 right now is better than Starfield, okay? But it's also been out for 5 years, right? So let's put a pin in it and let's see where Starfield is in 5 years. Because I will bring this video back up in 5 years if I'm streaming.
And in fairness, doing that at the scale that they're trying to achieve with this game is bloody hard. Obvious Sky is so much larger, and even now with all of his updates, that is a game where, you know, if you approach it as a sandbox, you can have a great time, but it can struggle still for many people. You look at Mass Effect Andromeda. Did you actually know Mass Effect Andromeda was supposed to structurally...
So only compare Starfield to other games when it helps the narrative, right? I'm comparing it to every game that's bringing it out, right? I don't understand the comparison, L. Like, he's comparing it to Skull and Bones. He compared it to Mass Effect and No Man's Sky and whatever else. What do you mean? The narrative is he's saying that the game is done. He says it can't come back. To say that this game is done and it can't come back in 2023 where there's so many games that are... First of all, this is a single player game. This is not a live service game. This is a single player game. I've said that they should add, and I think they will, like a Fallout First server thing to this. That's why there's 1,000 planets. You're going to be able to play with your friends. That's what I said, okay? But this game factually is just a single player game. It takes like this that keep happening, 30. You're going to have a stroke before 5 years. No Man's Sky isn't close. People don't understand the difference between No Man's Sky and Starfield. Aloe says he literally compared it to games everyone is comparing it to. No Man's Sky and Baldur's Gate. Yeah.
Be remarkably similar to Starfield. Obviously, though, in the development process of Mass Effect Andromeda, that whole plan to have, you know, hundreds of procedurally generated worlds to go for, it was something massive proc gen. That fell by the wayside and obviously rebooted. They just haven't solved the problem. They haven't solved the problem, but they applied the standard Bethesda video game basically that's been mildly iterated on at best since 6. Because I feel like the last great leap that they truly did was...
What he's saying here, and look, I make these takes too, as far as raising the bar, hitting that bar and making it better the next time, right? Doesn't mean you have to go super past the point, right? You just got to take what you got and then make it a little bit better, and then that's how it evolves. That's any game. Any game. I've said it thousands of times on this podcast, okay? If you expect, this is expectations, you like how my shows are all about like thematic here, okay? If your expectations are above what you think, like right now, people are thinking, man, boring old Skyrim, according to him, he was out of it back in 2011. It sold 60 million copies. He was done with it back in 2011 when it came out. Greatest game ever created, changed the landscape of stuff, okay? People couldn't stop talking about it, but he was over it. His expectations for Elder Scrolls, right, 6 is through the roof. They're like, well, that happened, and that happened 11 years ago, 12 years ago, so Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be, it's going to be amazing, right? This is what people do. You start hyping something up so much that when it gets there, you're like, nah, it's not what I've envisioned. People do it when they read books, and then the movie comes out.
Was moving from Morrowind to Oblivion, Oblivion to Fallout, Fallout to Skyrim. Those feel like iterations of a design, right? Done with better fidelity, and
that's what it is.
Sometimes with slightly better combat, even though they've always kind
Morrowind to Oblivion to Skyrim is an evolution of that series. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, a bit strange. I felt decently positive going into today's story. I'm almost wondering if it would be more pragmatic to say, screw it, Starfield's a wash, next Elder Scrolls game, let's try to learn from this.
Starfield's a wow.
Do not see this being worth the opportunity cost.
You don't even have to buy it. You don't even have to buy it.
Other than making mod tools and giving it to modders, because the whole situation is frankly so, yeah, wow.
13 million people. Nobody cares. I've never seen such a bad take.
I didn't expect to go all doomer, but here we are. Anyway, we do actually have some good news coming out of Bethesda, which is a double victory for the Bethesda quality.
Yeah, Mo, I don't understand. I'm not saying he's a hater. I feel like this is out of character for him. Right? That was some of the worst takes I've ever seen.
Assurance Union. So, ZeniMax at Workers United represents 300 QA staff at Bethesda.
He's talking about the employees and stuff that they're doing now. I don't understand. In one video, we went from that. This is as bad as Skyrim. Oh, I'm sorry, as bad as Fallout 4. And Fallout 4 had millions and millions of copies sold. 25 million copies sold, right? Starfield came out 3 months ago. Doom and gloom. It's never going to make it. Done. It's a wash. Like, what are we talking? The game, you don't even have to buy it. Does he typically follow the hive mind? No, Mr. 7. When I saw it this morning, I just watched the first parts of it, and I was like, I'm going to have to watch, right? I was like, I've never heard him. Now, obviously, it is what it is. If it's because it's YouTube and you put Starfield in your title, it gets you more clicks. We saw that earlier today because, the facts are, the facts are this. This is the facts, right? Let's look at the number one game of, let's bring this back up, right? The most covered game, okay, is Starfield, 53,000 articles, okay? That's not including YouTube channels and everything else. That's just articles written. I don't know if there's a ratio. You can't look at the, I don't have the thing on where it shows you the dislike. Hold on, my other one? No, not even close. There's only 159 people that disliked it and 5,000 people that gave an upvote. I mean, that's his thoughts. He's allowed to have him. Oh, sure, Rose. And I'm allowed to say that he has a bad take. And you're allowed to tell me that I have a bad take. That's fantastic. But to say that it's as bad as Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 sold 25 million copies, to say that he was over Skyrim and Skyrim sold 60 million copies, I mean, I'm just pointing out things. Yeah, but he's not talking about just, it's boring. That's cool if you think it's boring. But to say the game is dead, it's a wash, right? Did you listen to the video when he was speaking? I'm not just talking. He's allowed to say that it's boring. I'm not defending if someone thinks it's boring or exciting. He's talking about it physically not making it. He's comparing it to other games that weren't single-player games or live service games. He did bring in other games that weren't, like Baldur's Gate and Andromeda, okay? But to say that it's a wash, they have 200... This just came out. They have 250 people still working on the game for content. They just came out and said that it's 6 weeks. They're coming out with new stuff every 6 weeks. So then Spider-Man is a wash as well. Right. Sorry. Right. I mean, can we talk about gaming prices, right? Like Starfield costs somewhere around 300, 400 million with marketing. And then you get Spider-Man costs 300 and what was it? 315 million, 350 million. Then with marketing, it probably costs like 450, right? It's got to sell like 7 million copies to break even. Starfield's got to sell 5 or 6 million copies, maybe even 7 million copies to break even, right? Sell or accrue, enough money that covers that money of copies. I don't agree with him. It's a wash or all doom and gloom. Millions of players are playing it, and I have a map for content. Yeah, that's what I don't understand though. Why? I mean, he's allowed his take, and I'm also allowed to tell him that his take is completely wrong, and he could make a video and say I'm completely wrong about his take, right? That's the world we live in. But when you say certain things and you bring up facts, it's just like I don't understand. I mean, we can all pick a game that we didn't like at launch, right? And then we can all look at that game, not that I agree with it, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, and it's a better game. So where was the video? Where was the video that Cyberpunk 2077 was a wash? Where was that video? That they shouldn't continue fixing it and making it better. Where's that video? I don't remember that video. I remember people complaining about the bugs and stuff, but I don't remember the video coming out that Cyberpunk 27 is a wash. You know what's a wash? You know what's dead on arrival? The day before. That's a wash. That is dead on arrival. Literally, it died on arrival. Starfield could be a wash since, like Todd said, we designed it to last years. Spider-Man isn't designed to last, designed to play in a weekend. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 is somewhere in between the two. Last year's, meaning DLC. Spider-Man's gonna have DLC. I mean, Sony's so good at selling DLC. They literally made Miles Morales DLC and sold it to you for $50, and then combined with the original game, you paid $70. So you paid $20 for Miles Morales. 5 years from now, we're gonna get Starfield Next Gen Edition, 8K texture support by the Xbox X2. Yeah, I don't understand. To me, it just seems very naive to say statements like that. Any failed game is DOA until a dev's different. But DOA, when we say that, right? When I say Skull and Bones is dead on arrival, right? In my definition, that's not going to be a blockbuster hit. It's dead on arrival. I don't actually truly mean it's dead on arrival, like it's not coming out, like Babylon's Fall. That's dead on arrival, right? When one guy was playing it, that's dead on arrival, right? Very, very few games are dead on arrival. Exactly, Mo. DOA was the day before. We rarely ever see a game DOA. Like 4 days, I think that's pretty fast. That's the fastest I've seen. Not just the game closed down, the whole studio closed down. DOA as a gaming means no matter how long it stays out and is tried to be fixed, it still never make its money back. Definition. Yeah, I just feel like Starfield, I don't know what they made, right? We do know that they sold, what was it, 3 million? 3 million? What was it at launch? Let me look it up. Sold. The 5 days early access. So hold on. Starfield surpasses 2 million players early access. Okay. Now this is hard to judge because 2 million, you had to pay $100 on PC. I don't know what's PC, and you pay $30 if you have Game Pass and you have Starfield. It needed to sell based on what I think is $400 million. That's with marketing, right? We'll say even 450 million, right? 450 million, right? Let's just say that's with marketing from our talk yesterday. Right, let's say it's $450 million for Starfield, okay? Divided by 70, they got to sell 6.4 million copies at the $70, okay? But they had 200 million max if the 2 million people paid $100 to get 5 days early access, right? Now, they say they had 13 million people play Game Pass, or 13 million, and it's on Game Pass, so we don't know the sale, okay? So technically, with the 200 million, they're halfway to their point of breaking even. Now, I don't know what the rest of the 11 million people paid. If they paid $30, they paid full price. If they just paid on Game Pass, do they pay for Game Pass for long enough to cover the cost of Starfield? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that Starfield is not a wash. And like right now, the 250 people they have on the actual studio going, all right, wrap it up. It's a wash. Let's start making Elder Scrolls 6. They're already making Elder Scrolls 6. Why they have 250 people working on Starfield, right? Now, Spider-Man, if we take the exact same example, was a price tag of 300, was it 315 or 350, right? What was Spider-Man's cost that leaked? Was it 300 or was it 350 or was it between somewhere in there? If you take the equation that we brought up yesterday, let's just say it cost 300 million, it cost them 450 million, right? Spider-Man cost them 450 million with marketing, right? So 450 million divided by 70, they got to sell 6 million copies. How many copies has Spider-Man sold right now? Spider-Man 2 has confirmed to have sold over 5 million units. So they're close. We don't know yet, right? To break even, they need to sell 6.4 million copies. So they're 1.5 million, 1.4 million copies away. Maybe Christmas will come and everyone that'll break even for them. Okay, so they're 1.4 million away from breaking even from the budget and marketing. 315. Okay, so half of that, then add that to that, so they're like 425 million, 450. They still got to sell like 6 million copies. They're closing in. Just the 11 million people potentially in Game Pass are making 164 million. Just a handoff. Need to pay $30 for you to break. Right, but those people, if all those people buy the expansion, then yes. That's a big potential, right? If Starfield has that moment where all of a sudden they bring out the DLC and everyone's like, this is that, dare I say, like Forsaken moment for Destiny where everyone starts to come back. Sure. But at the end of the day, the game's the game. It's not a live service game. It's just like Spider-Man. It's just like God of War. It's just like any other single player game that came out, right? And sold. I don't understand why people keep trying to compare single player games to these live service games. Yeah, I saw that, Krebsy. Krebsy says, I made a comment in Discord. Spider-Man 2 had a budget of 315 and Insomniac got bought out for 229, meaning budgets for video games have ballooned so much or to more than the cost of the studio in 4 years. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? They're gonna have to start. I don't know what they're gonna do, because the bigger the game is, the more it has to sell. The more it has to sell, the less of the margin it has, right? The less it can make. If your budget's 315, you got to sell 6.5 million, right? After marketing, you have to sell 6.5. Hence that contract that we saw with the Insomniac deal with Marvel, right? Whatever their tax is, they need to sell 6 million copies. Otherwise, their termination. Within 1 year, they got to sell the 6 million. If they don't, then the termination happens, right? They could sell 500 and, they could sell 5.9999 million day one. And if no one else buys that game for the rest of the year, then the termination's done, right? I did the example yesterday for YouTube videos, okay? YouTube videos, I put a video out, it can do skyrocket like this, and you're like, oh man, it's gonna break that 1,000, and then all of a sudden at 400 it goes and just flatlines and stays there and never, and then it goes, a couple people watch, a couple people buy, whatever you want to equate it to.